Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Shay and I are excited to sit down and fill you guys in on how both of us have been doing during our first week of postpartum. But before I do that, I figured I'd better formally introduce you guys to Miss Shay Alex. So here she is. She has the hiccups right now. But she was born on Monday, May 16th at 5:51 p.m. and she weighed 6 pounds, 15 ounces, and 20 inches long. And she has honestly been such an easy baby, and I know it's only been a week, but we honestly thought we were going to get a monster because of how much of an easy baby Baylee was. Baylee was just so content, didn't really cry. All up until like her first year of life. She was such a good sleeper. She was just such an easy baby. So Adam and I really thought that we were gonna be having our hands full with this one. And like I said, I know it's only been a week, but so far she's been the same. She obviously lets out a cry when she has a dirty diaper or she's hungry, but other than that, she doesn't really cry too much, and she's just sleeping pretty much all day. She has her days and nights mixed up like most newborns do, because when they're in the womb and you're walking around during the day, you're kind of like rocking them to sleep, and then when you go to sleep at night is when they're usually wide awake. So that was definitely the case with Shay, and we're kind of trying to work on that and flip her days and nights around and try to keep her up more during the day so that she sleeps better at night. But as far as postpartum goes, my main priority this week and my main focus was breastfeeding. We are exclusively breastfeeding so far, and we started breastfeeding pretty much right away when she was placed on my chest, like moments after I put her to the breast, and she latched on right away. And since then, she has been feeding pretty much every 2 hours, sometimes even less than that, since she was born. So she and I have been doing so well with breastfeeding. I feel like we make such a good team. I remember it being a lot more difficult with Baylee because in the hospital they tell you that when you're breastfeeding you don't really need to burp, and at least that was the case with me when I had Baylee. I remember them telling me that I didn't really need to burp Baylee because I was exclusively breastfeeding, and they don't typically take in a lot of air like they do if they were bottle fed. So the first couple weeks of Baylee's life, I wasn't burping her, and she was just pissed the first couple weeks until we figured out why, and that was because we weren't burping her, and it was just so difficult. So this time I'm definitely making sure I'm burping her after every feeding and keeping her upright for the first like 10 minutes after I feed her, just so that she doesn't have like any gas, and make sure that she is getting all of her burps out, because nothing is more irritating than feeding her and getting her full and then laying her down and then having her wake up like 45 minutes later because she has gas pains. But after the first couple times of Shay feeding while we were in the hospital, I noticed that it was starting to get pretty painful. And if I took one thing away from my breastfeeding journey with Baylee, it was that breastfeeding shouldn't be painful. It can be uncomfortable at times, but it shouldn't be painful. So when our lactation consultant came in to check on how we were doing, I made sure to mention to her that it was getting pretty painful and I thought that her latch might be off. And after she kind of like oversaw us feeding a couple times, she did confirm that, and she said that I was right in that her bottom lip was kind of like curved under, and it should be fully out and over your entire nipple. So her latch was just off, and she told us that we're gonna have to kind of pry her lip, bottom lip open during every feeding until she kind of gets used to it and it becomes a routine for her to do. So we're still having to do that pretty much every feeding. When she latches on, I try to pull her bottom lip down so that it's more comfortable for me. So because of that, my nipples have been extremely sore and they both are cracked. And my right one is especially really painful to feed on, but I don't want to get engorged, so I've just been trying to power through it. And one product that has definitely helped me during this first week of postpartum is this Earth Mama Angel Baby Nipple Butter. I am pretty much almost done with this stuff. I use it before and after every feed, and Shay doesn't seem to have any issues with it. If I fail to wipe it off, she's still able to latch on and feed. Shay's umbilical cord fell off yesterday, so on her 6th day of life it fell off. So we are so excited to finally give her her first bath at home. We're probably gonna do that later on tonight. And I can't wait to see if she likes it or not. Her first bath in the hospital, she hated it. So I'm curious to see if she will like it this time. I'm sure she won't, but I'm excited to kind of clean her up and get her smelling really yummy. What's wrong? What's wrong? But as far as postpartum care for me goes, this time I've experienced a lot more blood loss and cramping this time. And for those of you that have never given birth before, after you give birth, your nurse will come in very frequently, every hour or so, to check on your blood loss, to check your pad to see and make sure you're not experiencing too much, and to kind of press on your uterus to make sure it's going back down to size. And after I think it was like the 3rd or 4th time she came in, I mentioned before she checked me that I heard a big gurgling sound in my stomach, and followed by a lot of just stuff that came out. I didn't know what it was, but it was a lot more than what I was expecting it to be, and a lot more than I was used to. So I mentioned that to her before she checked me, and she went down to see what it was, and she kind of got a little worried look on her face, and she said that she was gonna go get her charge nurse to come back and take a look at it. And once the charge nurse came back in, I mentioned to her that at my 20-week anatomy scan, they found an extra lobe or tissue on my placenta, and they wanted to make sure that when I delivered my placenta that we made sure that everything got delivered properly and nothing was stuck back behind, because I could experience postpartum hemorrhaging. And I talked more in detail about that in my 20-week anatomy scan, so if you guys are interested in that video, I'll link it somewhere here for you. So after mentioning that to her, she kind of confirmed that that's probably what it was. It was probably just leftover placenta or clotting. She wasn't 100% sure, but she told me that she was going to have to scrape my uterus to make sure everything got cleared out, because if it didn't, I was gonna bleed out. So that was pretty terrifying, but at this point my epidural had completely worn off, and if you watched my birth vlog, you'll know that I was only numb from my butt down, but by this point it was all pretty much worn off. So she told me she was going to go inside and scrape my uterus, and I didn't really know what to expect, but she stuck her entire forearm up to her elbow inside my cervix while she was pressing down on my uterus from the outside to kind of push everything out. And let me tell you, I would rather experience both my girls' births over and over again rather than experience that kind of pain, because it was awful. I was thrashing around the hospital bed trying to pry her arm out of me. Adam even told me after all of this had happened that he almost couldn't bear to watch me in that much pain, and that he almost had to leave the hospital room. And that is so not like my husband. My husband can handle a lot and nothing really phases him. So to hear him say that kind of like put everything into perspective on how kind of intense it was. But after the 2nd time of her scraping everything out, she told one of the nurses to get me some fentanyl in my IV, because she could barely do what she needed to do because I was thrashing around and trying to pull her arm out of me. So after they put fentanyl in my IV, I kind of calmed down a little bit, and it kind of numbed everything. So it was still painful, but it was a lot more manageable. So after she scraped my uterus a couple times, she did an ultrasound to make sure that everything was cleared out. And she said that everything was cleared out and everything looked fine, but if I started to experience a lot more clotting and like stuff that looked like placenta, obviously to let her know. So over the next day in the hospital, my bleeding started to subside, and it was just like your average blood loss after you give birth. But when we got home over the next couple days, I figured it was gonna kind of subside even more, but it really hasn't, and it really burns when I pee. And they give you one of these peri bottles in the hospital, and you're supposed to fill it up with warm water and just spray down in that area when you're peeing to kind of relieve that burn feeling. And I didn't tear or need stitches or anything, but I did get really swollen, and I'm still pretty swollen down there. So Using this when I go to the bathroom definitely helps, and I'm also using this New Mama bottom spray, and this stuff is a lifesaver. It's like been my best friend during this week. I'm almost done with this stuff too, and I want to go out and buy another one, but I'm too scared to go out with both my girls yet. So I'm just trying to use it sparingly, but I do use it after every time I go to the bathroom, and it's been a lifesaver. So I definitely recommend getting one of these. I don't know if they make other brands, but I love it, and it smells really good too. I'm still having trouble sitting down and kind of walking around a little bit. Mostly just sitting down is super uncomfortable still, and a lot of that has to do with because I'm so swollen. But if Adam even tries to like make me laugh, or I have to cough or sneeze, it literally feels like my butt is going to fall off. It's the weirdest feeling. I also had a lot of contraction pains after I gave birth while Shay was breastfeeding. It's really common to feel a lot of those contraction feelings because your uterus is shrinking back down to its original size. And I didn't really experience that too much with Baylee, but my doctor said that after each baby it gets worse and worse. So I figured that's why, because this is my second birth. So it was really bad in the hospital, but when we got home it kind of subsided, and I haven't really been taking the strong ibuprofen that they give you in the hospital. I think I took it for the first like 3 days or so, and then now I don't really need it, and I don't have any of those contraction pains anymore, thank God. I am still taking the stool softeners that they give you in the hospital though, because the first bowel movement after you give birth is so terrifying. So I've definitely been trying to remind myself to take those twice a day because it's terrifying. The other thing that I've been using pretty frequently this week has been these disposable nursing pads. These are by the brand Lancino, and I just find them a lot more convenient to use rather than the ones that you can reuse and put in the wash. I just find that the disposable ones are just a lot more convenient. As far as adjusting goes, as a family of 4 and with my daughter Baylee and Shay, as soon as we got home from the hospital, Baylee came running out to us, and she wanted to see her sister so bad, and once we took her out of the car, she came up to her and gave her a huge kiss and said that she loved her and gave her her bunny that she sleeps with every night. And Adam and I, when she did that, we looked at each other and just kind of like smiled because we knew how huge that was for Baylee to do. And then once we got inside, we sat Baylee on the couch and gave her the boppy pillow to put around her, and she held her sister for a good 30 minutes or so and didn't even want us to take her off of her. She was just in such awe of her and had the biggest smile on her face. It was seriously the most precious thing, and if you guys have been following my journey, you know that that was one of my biggest worries, was how Baylee was going to react to her sister, and just like the whole adjustment and the attention shift and all of that, because it's been just Baylee and I for the last 2.5 years, for basically 24/7 of her entire life. So I thought it was going to be really difficult for her, and I know it's only been a week still, but so far she has been so understanding, and just sometimes she just kind of acts like she's not there, but other times she's all about her sister and just wants to hug her and kiss her and hold her for hours. I'm not kidding, like if we put her on her lap, she will not want us to take her away, and sometimes when Adam's holding her, she gets really jealous and she wants to hold her herself. So needless to say, she's put all of my worry to rest, and I'm just so grateful that it's been such an easy transition so far, and I just can't wait to see the two of them grow up together and witness firsthand their incredible bond that they're gonna share. But other than that, I think that was everything I wanted to catch you guys up on our first week of postpartum. And I'm going to be filming a 1-month postpartum update as well as monthly updates of Shay, but if there's anything else that you guys want me to film, please let me know. And before I end today's video, I will end with a 1-week postpartum belly shot. Okay, so here it is from the front. Sorry, it's kind of red because she was sleeping on me. But it feels so weird to not have a belly anymore. I already miss it. And then from the side, and I did manage to get one little stretch mark right there. I noticed it the week before I went in for my induction, so I didn't escape them. And then here it is from the other side. So there it is. There's my 1-week postpartum belly. So that is everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and following along on my journey with me. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. Okay, you guys, I have to show you what Shay looks like right now.
Her little feet got out. Oh, big yawn. Say bye-bye.